76 laps and 200 kilometers, all driven by one person alone on the Silverstone National Circuit, in a car that won the 2021 Constructors' Championship. Then on April 18th, Mercedes released the footage. The driver climbing out of the W12 cockpit is Doriane Pin, the reigning Formula One Academy champion and the first woman to ever drive a Mercedes Formula One car. On her first run, she was already carrying near full throttle through Copse. The headlines called it a secret test. It was not. Pin herself confirmed the test on the official Formula One Beyond the Grid podcast roughly a week beforehand. Mercedes teased a photo of her helmet on social media the night before. The Saturday morning reveal came with slick photos, video content, and prepared quotes from 4 people inside the team. This was a planned drop, timed and packaged for the biggest reach. That gap matters. A real driver test happens quietly and gives you numbers. A brand event happens with cameras and gives you headlines. Mercedes ran a brand event. That does not mean Pin did not impress. It means the team around her had already decided what the story would look like before she turned a wheel. The question is not whether she belongs in that cockpit. The question is what happened once she was in it, and whether the reaction inside the garage showed more than Mercedes meant to share. Because the real story from Silverstone is not the milestone, it is what the engineers saw. Modern Formula One cares about 2 things in a young driver. The first is speed. The second, and more the bigger one, is how fast they think. Can a driver learn complex systems quickly? Can they manage braking shifts, energy use, tire prep, and race plans while staying calm at 300 kilometers an hour? Speed can be built over time. The ability to think clearly under extreme pressure is much harder to teach. Mercedes spent months testing that before they let Pin anywhere near the W12. She joined the junior team in 2024 when Mercedes backed her Formula One Academy entry. After winning the title in 2025 with Prima, 172 points, 4 wins, a 28-race scoring streak across 2 seasons, Mercedes moved her up to development driver in January 2026 and brought her inside the factory. At Brackley and Brixworth, she worked alongside Frederic Vesti and Theo Pourchaire on the W17 simulator program. That is not a tour of the building. Simulator work means learning how the current car behaves at every track, testing setup changes, running through race plans, and giving the engineers feedback they can actually use. It is the hidden side of Formula One, and it is where teams decide whether a driver has the right mind for the job. Inside the team, the message from the top has been clear and growing louder. The head of Mercedes driver development believes a woman will drive in Formula One in the coming years and wants Mercedes to be the team that makes it happen. Wolff himself has praised Pin as a fierce racer whose character fits the culture of the team. These are not throwaway comments. They are staking claims from the people who control 2 of the most prized seats in the sport. And Toto Wolff personally cleared the Silverstone test on the Beyond the Grid podcast, on the condition that Pin's simulator results hit the team's own bar. She hit it. Pin's career before Mercedes already pointed in that direction. She started karting at age 9 in the outskirts of Paris and won the French women's karting title in 2019, a year that was either going to launch her career or end it. The Iron Dames program signed her in 2021 and opened the door to racing abroad. She won the Ferrari Challenge Europe Trofeo Pirelli title in 2022 with 9 wins from 14 races. She took a class win at the 24 Hours of Spa that same year. In 2023, racing Le Mans Prototype, 2 cars in the World Endurance Championship with Prema alongside Mirko Bortolotti and Daniil Kvyat, she became the first woman to win the FIA's Revelation of the Year award at 19 years old. She entered Formula 4 Southeast Asia with Prema and finished second. Endurance racing, grand touring cars, sports cars, single-seaters. She was jumping between different machines all the time and performing in all of them. 2024 brought both a chance and a setback. A cycling crash before the 24 Hours of Le Mans broke her ribs and forced her to pull out of the race she had been building toward all season. That injury cost her months. She came back, entered Formula One Academy with Mercedes backing, and finished second to Abby Pulling with 3 wins at Jeddah, Zandvoort, and Lusail. In 2025, she came back and won the whole thing with Prema, the only driver to score in every single race across the full season. That ability to adjust is exactly what caught Mercedes' eye, and it is exactly what they wanted to put to the test at Silverstone. The W12 is not a gentle car. It is the chassis that won the 2021 Constructors' Championship. The machine Lewis Hamilton and Valtteri Bottas raced through one of the most fierce title fights in Formula One history. The engine puts out over 750 brake horsepower. The wings and floor press the car into the ground hard enough to drive it upside down at speed. It punishes doubt on the spot. Either a driver adjusts or the car exposes them within a handful of laps. Pin completed 76 laps across the day on Silverstone's national circuit, a 2.639 kilometer layout with fast corners that give you no mental break. Copse alone is one of the fastest turns in British racing. 200 kilometers of total running, roughly 2/3 of a full Grand Prix distance. That is not a warm-up lap or a promo run. That is enough time to fully adjust to the car, push closer and closer to the limit, and give the engineers useful feedback across an entire afternoon. The day followed a standard testing of previous cars' build-up. Slow laps first, systems checks, a step-by-step rise in speed, and then full-pace runs in the afternoon. Every Formula One test has a hidden moment, the point where the engineers stop watching the plan and start studying the driver. For Pin, that moment came early. The trackside engineering crew found that her focus and readiness left a mark on everyone in the garage. She looked at home from the very first laps and was able to push the car toward its limits, with a belief that caught the engineers off guard. And here is the detail that matters most. She did not attack the car. She built rhythm. Lap after lap, her inputs got sharper, her confidence grew, her feedback got cleaner. In Formula One, engineers spot control faster than they spot raw speed, because speed without calm is reckless, and calm without speed can be fixed. Pin brought both. That approach is rarer than it sounds. A young driver given their first laps in a Formula One car almost always tries to prove something right away. Late braking, hard steering, chasing a number the team can hand to the press afterward. It makes sense. A first test might be the only test, so the urge is to leave nothing behind. The problem is that Formula One cars do not reward force. They reward clean inputs. And the engineering teams watching from the pit wall can tell the difference within 3 laps. Pin built trust with the car before she pushed it. That is a habit from endurance racing. Prototype drivers learn to treat the first stint as a getting-to-know-the-car run, not a flat-out sprint. That mindset carried straight to Silverstone, and it looks like one of the reasons the Mercedes engineers reacted the way they did. George Russell watched from the garage. She was carrying near full throttle through Copse on her opening runs. For a driver on her first day in a Formula One car, on a track that punishes any pause at every corner, that tells the engineering team something very clear. It tells them she trusts the car. And trust, in Formula One, is the base everything else gets built on. No lap times have been released. Mercedes called the running a learning day built around steps and feedback, not a speed test. For Pin, it was the best day of her life. She did not want to get out of the cockpit at the end. The night after the test, she could still hear the engine. She could not stop replaying the feeling of being behind the wheel of a Formula One car at Silverstone. That is one driver's feeling after a single test day. The more telling response came from the team. Mercedes put out milestones, not numbers. Feeling, not data. When a team runs a young driver they believe is on the path to a race seat, they measure that driver against the current lineup. They share speed gaps. They feed reporters hand-picked lap time figures that frame the driver as ready for the next step. Mercedes did none of that. They used the word historic over and over across their pages. They shared 0 lap times. That is not what a real driver test looks like. That is what a reward looks like. And yet the reaction from the engineers, the early settling in, the calm through Copse, the rhythm that built lap after lap, hints that the reward may have kicked off a result. Mercedes was not ready to talk about this soon. If you are finding this useful, hit subscribe. More Formula One content like this every week. So here is where things get hard to ignore. Because Doriane Pin is not the first woman to drive a modern Formula One car. And the pattern that follows these tests is, at this point, painfully clear. Susie Wolff drove in 4 official free practice 1 sessions for Williams across 2014 and 2015. She was the first woman to take part in a Formula One race weekend since Giovanna Amati in 1992. The headlines were warm. The paddock was behind her. A race seat never came through. Wolff stopped racing and now runs Formula One Academy, the very program that produced Pin. Before the Silverstone test, Wolff sent Pin a personal video message telling her to trust the engineers and get ready for the moment the engine fires up and everything becomes real. A kind gesture from a woman whose own test drives led nowhere, coaching the next woman whose test drive may end up in the same place. Simona de Silvestro completed 112 laps in a Sauber at Fiorano in 2014. The stated goal was a race seat for 2015. It did not happen. She went back to IndyCar and later moved to supercars in Australia. Jessica Hawkins drove 26 laps in an Aston Martin at the Hungaroring in November 2023. She never got a free practice 1 session, never got a race seat, and went back to her brand role. Tatiana Calderon completed multi-day testing with Sauber in 2018, became a test driver, and never made a race start. She now races in the World Endurance Championship. Maria de Villota joined Marussia for a straight-line test in 2012 and suffered a career-ending incident that took her out of the sport forever. Lella Lombardi remains the last woman to start a Formula One Grand Prix and the only woman to score championship points. That was 1976, nearly 50 years ago. Every one of these moments was real. Every one made headlines. And every single one ended with the driver going on with her career somewhere else. The test is always the high point, never the starting line. The script is always the same: historic, groundbreaking, a step forward for the sport, and then silence. The follow-up test never comes. The free practice 1 session never shows up. The engine of praise runs perfectly. The engine of progress does not start. Pin's 76 laps are the longest private Formula 1 test by a woman in the modern era. She drove 3 times the laps Hawkins managed. She did it in a title-winning car. That matters. The question is whether it matters enough to break a pattern that has held for half a century. The Mercedes 2026 driver lineup has been locked for over a year. George Russell signed a multi-year deal. Kimi Antonelli is confirmed alongside him at age 20. Frederic Vesti holds the backup seat, confirmed in February. Theo Pourchaire fills a junior role. There is no open spot, and 2026 is the biggest rule change the sport has seen in over a decade. New engines with a 50-50 split between fuel power and electric power. Full-time moving wings replacing the drag reduction system. Smaller, lighter cars. 100% clean fuel. Audi coming in as a new builder. Cadillac joining as the 11th team. Every team on the grid is locked in on keeping things steady during a time of huge change. This is not the year any team boss takes a chance on an unproven race driver, no matter how well they tested in older cars. Mercedes has not set up a free practice 1 run for Pin. The rules say each team must give 2 rookie free practice 1 sessions per car across the season. Those slots exist. Pin counts. Mercedes has not said they will put her in one, and Pin herself is not chasing Formula 1 through the normal route. She has stepped off the single-seater ladder completely. In March 2026, she signed as a test driver for Peugeot Total Energies in the World Endurance Championship Hypercar program. She races the European Le Mans Series in Le Mans Prototype 2 for Duquesne Team, alongside Julian Andlauer and Richard Verschoor. At Round 1 in Barcelona on April 11th, 6 days before her Silverstone test, the car finished 3rd in class. Her 2026 schedule is built around the 24 Hours of Le Mans, the full European Le Mans Series season, and a Peugeot Hypercar test program aimed at a possible factory seat. These are not side jobs. The European Le Mans Series runs across several rounds in Europe. Le Mans prep starts months early. There is no version of 2026 where Pin also enters Formula 2. The kind reading is that she is being smart about it. Formula 2 costs millions, offers no promise. And the grid is packed with drivers who have more single-seater time and bigger budgets and will still never see a Formula 1 cockpit. Endurance racing gives you factory backing and a real career without burning $2 million a season on the hope of maybe. The harsher reading is that the Formula 1 pathway everyone is cheering for simply does not exist. She is not on it. She is next to it, looking in from the outside, waving through the fence. Formula 1 Academy was built in 2023 with one clear goal: create a path for women to reach Formula 1. The 2025 Champions Prize included a testing of previous cars run with the Formula 1 team that backed them. Pin is the first champion to cash in on that promise, and the first Formula 1 Academy graduate to drive a Formula 1 car. That is a real step toward what Formula 1 Academy said it would do. Mercedes also used the test to mark 10 years of their junior program, turning a driver moment into a team party. Good look, no date attached. The next step from Mercedes adds up to more simulator time and trackside coaching of Peyton Westcott, the 16-year-old American who takes Pin's Formula 1 Academy seat with Prima for 2026. If the next Formula 1 Academy champion is backed by a different team, the question becomes whether that team will offer the same test chance. Pin's test sets a first example. Whether it sets a bar depends on what the other 9 teams do. That is where the Silverstone test builds its sharpest tension, because the reaction from the engineers says Pin has something Mercedes wants: fast thinking, calm under pressure, the ability to adjust, the kind of traits that modern Formula 1 teams now rate just as highly as raw speed. And in a sport that has seen this same story before, a quiet test, small steps up, engineers getting more and more keen, the question is whether Mercedes is building something real behind closed doors or running the same script that has made good headlines and zero race starts for 50 years. If Mercedes believes what their own engineers saw, there are clear moves that would prove it. The first is a free practice 1 run. A free practice 1 lap time shows up on the screens next to Russell and Antonelli. It is public, it can be measured, and it cannot be managed with a press release. That is the gap between being let in for show and being let in to compete. The second is a test in the current car. The W12 proved Pin can drive a Formula 1 machine. A run in the W17 would prove Mercedes sees her as part of the working program, not a prize for past wins. The third sits outside Formula 1 completely. The Peugeot Hypercar program runs a trial test in Bahrain later this year. If Pin earns a factory World Endurance Championship seat for 2027, that tells you where her career is really going. The real question is not whether Doriane Pin can handle a Formula 1 car. 76 laps at Silverstone answered that. The real question is whether anything that happened inside that garage, the calm, the rhythm, the engineering reaction Mercedes did not expect, is enough to break a 50-year pattern. Or whether Formula One will do what it has always done: celebrate the milestone, print the headline, and quietly move on to the next one.